Kicking for you like it's 9-3. You see, Rob impact the mic, keeping it real G. Talk about relationships, money, and health. Dropping knowledge while I'm spitting it, that's a wealth.
Complex conversations, we break it down. Pop culture topics, we hold it down. Dive deep into society's complexities. Educate, entertain, never resting in complex
Context, where the truth unfolds. Analyzing life through stories untold. Rob impact, dropping knowledge every day.
Unpacking life's complexities, one topic at a time. You're listening to Complex Context. Here is your host, Rob Impact.
Yeah, back at it again with my friends from Podcast Land. This is Complex Context. I am your host, Rob Impact, and I'm so glad that you're back for more of this banter back and forth because we're building a relationship. And it's really important that we have this and continue to work on it. We're going places. We're getting stress off of our chest. We're getting ideas and opinions out there. And this is where you can get that done and participate. Now, if you have friends or family that you would like to spread the word about this show to, or maybe you just happened upon it, I would highly recommend you visit us on our webpage thanks to our hosting partner and distribution partner, Podbean. Shout out to Podbean. They're a really good group to be a part of. We are at complexcontext.podbean.com. Again, that's complexcontext.podbean.com. If you go there, you can find our episodes there. You can also find all of the options as far as where you get your podcasts, where our availability is reached out to, and wow, we have a lot of it. You will see. We're on all the major players, and our social media stuff is there. Oh, by the way, as we encourage people who might have an idea or a topic that they want to talk about, you can also book a spot request for guest hosting. So please, all of that, go find it at our official page, complexcontext.podbean.com. I want to give a shout out to my boy H2G for texting me, reaching out. I really appreciate it. It was good to get that check-in. I miss you. Hope you're doing well. I'm pretty sure you're doing quite fine. And hopefully we'll have H2G here. You know who you are. I don't want to give it away too quick. It might be a surprise. So thank you. Man, always good to hear from you. And if you happen to be already connected to us via social media, you would have seen that thanks to our Twitter, at ComplexContext1, we gave a little bit of meme action out to a Texas hip-hop extraordinaire producer that if you don't know, now you know, and I highly recommend you check him out, Rob Victim. He does incredible work. He keeps the essence of that kind of boom-bap, lo-fi hip-hop alive, and I really appreciate that because we need that. The way he layers things together and makes those samples just tie into something that's really just a piece of art with every project that he touches. It's unbelievable. So he does a lot of flipping of certain songs that you may be aware of, and you just really need to go check him out at Rob Victim, Victum, on Instagram and Twitter, I believe, if I remember that correctly. But when in doubt, go to his official webpage. It is robvictum.com. Again, that's Victum. He has worked with a lot of big players in hip-hop. He's also just always posting new content and seems super down to earth. We gave him that meme action on Twitter thanks to one of his videos, and he just seems like such a cool guy. And we're really appreciative that he recognized us, and he put out there on his Instagram how when he saw it, he just kind of was laughing, and it really got to him, the humor behind it. So we're glad to put a smile on his face, and we're glad that he's doing what he's doing. And I know that you're doing what you need to do, and I'm very grateful that you're here listening to the show. So thank you so much for that. Down to the nitty-gritty. What did I do? Let's give a little Rob Impact check-in here. So my wife had a little social gathering a few days ago, and that provided an opportunity for me to spend some solo time with my daughter. And it's been a while, mostly due to my own kind of obstacles that didn't allow for that to happen as effectively and as often as I would like to. But I'm at a good spot where I was able to take advantage of her having some time with her friends, took our daughter out. Man, did we have a good dinner. So we don't always go out or don't always spend a lot of money. I said, you know what? Where do you want to go? What do you want to have? And we ended up going to Uno's, which for anybody that's been there, man, they got a good menu. It's been a while for me. We had a great salad. She had some pasta. I had some chicken parmesan. We split the salad. We both had our own respective beverages, and it was just so good. And their music, oddly enough, because I don't know why I never really thought about it, you usually remember whether something's good or not. Their music was pretty banging. I was very happy with it. They were kind of all over the place in terms of genre and time frame, but definitely looking forward to getting back there sooner than later. So big shout out to Uno's. Thank you for providing such a great atmosphere and really friendly staff. I mean, wow. We both were looking at each other and we said, wow, they're really nice. Not that we expected them to be complete jerks, but it's just a feel-good kind of thing. So we were happy to see that. After we were done having our food, the Uno's where we went to is about a 20-second drive to the parking garage at our local mall. And yes, we still have a mall. It's a significant one. That's going to be another conversation probably coming in a future episode, is the whole mall thing. Malls dying. Malls are malls, death to the mall. And I'm totally not in line with that. The reason why is if you're going to end up developing new plazas and these new kind of shopping centers where everything is outside, you're basically creating a mall with no central interior means of getting around. And that's kind of wacky to me. You're basically replicating the layout for a mall, but exposed to the elements. Won't get into that. I want to right now, but I can't get too far off the rails. So we went to the mall, and we went to a couple of stores. First of which is she's getting into Hot Topic. My daughter isn't that old. She's on the cusp of, how am I going to put this, late adolescence, I suppose, if I'm labeling it correctly. But she's a smart kid. She's a good kid. And she said, Dad, I'd like to go to Hot Topic because there's some jewelry there that she likes and a couple of stuffed animals. So I said, okay. And for me, I believe it was my first time in there with her, just her and I. To feel the feeling that came over me of, I can't believe it, I'm here at Hot Topic with my daughter. It was just something that was really awesome and kind of awkward, but not a bad awkward. Just something that you wouldn't normally think about processing until you're in the moment. So I was like, wow, this is kind of surreal. And we were looking at stuff that she was interested in, and it was really cool. And it was nice for me to be in there because as a middle-aged dad, there's not a lot of excuse for me to go in there myself. You could, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but for a lot of what is considered, I suppose, popular and desired for today's youth, there's not a ton of relatability. There is a little bit, but not a whole heck of a lot. So it's one of those things where it makes sense when it makes sense. And, of course, when you have a younger daughter that wants to go in, it made perfect sense to go in and for me to be like, all right, I can go in, take a look, survey the scene. And the people there were just as nice as the people at the restaurant. So we were like, wow, this is such a great night. This is really, really cool. So she got a stuffed animal there, which was nice. And then we went downstairs, probably complete opposite end of the mall. And there's a store that I knew was there. I haven't been in until the other night. It was my first time. It's called Miniso. And it seems as though their claim to fame, if you will, is that they offer a lot of items that are of either an Asian descent or Asian pop culture, something that can really appeal to people of all ages, which is really cool. So, oddly enough, without having any expectations, I walked out with a dog toy for my dogs, which was really cool and very affordable. So, when it can save the pocket a few bucks, I'm a fan already. My daughter got a couple of things while she was there, and it was just, again, a fantastic time. Very bright store, nice people there. Self-checkout is kind of cool. It's a little funky, but not too bad considering that the workers were right in the vicinity of the self-checkout machine. So if anything bad should happen, which it didn't for us, it's nice to know that you'll have that help readily available. So Miniso, we did that. And then by that time, it was pretty late, at least in terms of her bedtime. So we went home and she got ready for bed. I took care of the dogs. And then seemingly not too long after, my wife was done with her social gathering and she had a good time seemingly. So it all worked out. It was a great daddy-daughter night. And I would encourage you, if you happen to be part of a parental unit, try and get that scheduled every so often. It's one of those things that you could take the initiative and plan it out just because, without having your partner or significant other necessarily busy or scheduled to do something. So I would highly encourage it, whether you have one or multiple children. Take that time. It's really, really cool. I appreciate that. Now, one of the things that I got at Miniso, and again, it was my first time, so not knowing anything beyond, they have a lot of Asian-inspired retail and pop culture type of merchandise. I couldn't believe it. I've seen it on websites before, but they have a massive aisle of little snacks, different cookies and crackers and chips and some beverages. And thanks to Miniso, I was inspired to buy a food item that normally would not see in a typical store, and you would probably have to go online and take the extra effort to procure it. So thanks to this experience, we're going to introduce a brand new segment that you'll hear every so often here on Complex Context called Flavor to Savor.
Step up to the plate, we're about to debate the flavor to savor. But never second rate, taste buds on fire. We're the critics you admire. Break it down on the podcast, set the world on fire. Savory to sweet, we're digging deep. Food and drink, it's a flavor-filled feast. We'll sip and we'll munch, review with the punch. Complex Context, bringing the flavor for lunch.
Now, wasn't that awesome? Wasn't that an awesome segment introduction? I told you, we are growing week after week. So this is good, man. This is good. I love it. Flavor to savor. Now, this is where we discuss today's beverage and food options that you may or may not want to savor. And what we do is we're going to discuss a particular item, whether it be, again, food or beverage. And we have 5 categories that we're going to give a score to. We're going to add these up. You're going to get a total, and that will dictate my recommendation on if you should get it or if you should not get it. Pretty simple. Now, if you have an idea for a future Flavor to Savor segment, please send that. You can contact us via email at complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. Again, that's complexcontextshow@yahoo.com. You can also reach out to us on social media. Again, all of our information as far as our Facebook, our Twitter, complexcontext.podbean.com is where everything is. Alternatively, if you want to get right to the meat and potatoes of the deal, at ComplexContext1 on Twitter and Facebook.com/ComplexContext1. Get your recommendations in not only for topics for future shows or maybe if you want to guest book through our Podbean page. Flavor to Savor recommendations would definitely be welcome. For the first edition of this segment, we are going to discuss Lay's Tokyo Chicken Teriyaki Potato Chips, which are imported from Taiwan. Again, I want to thank the folks at Miniso for having such a great selection of snacks and beverages for people to try out, and I was very intrigued with this. Couple reasons. One, I'm a fan of potato chips. Not like I'm grabbing in the bag and just making a meal out of it. But yeah, a few chips every day, I'm for it. And I think that's okay. Everything in moderation, right? That's how it should be. Also, I'm a big fan of consuming chicken. Very big fan. So, chicken teriyaki, I enjoy that on occasion. Lay's potato chips, I enjoy that on occasion. This seemed like a no-brainer. Let's talk about, now, I will say, not one of the 5 categories, but as an aside, the packaging. Holy cow. It was so strong and just such a thicker than normal bag for potato chips. I was extremely impressed. I certainly had no worries about would they be stale or is the bag constructed in a way that over time it's just not going to withhold the flavor and the integrity of the food that well. You would not worry about that with this at all. I actually had to get a pair of scissors to open it up. And I'm not like a weakling. I had somebody else try to open it up. It just didn't work. So, pair of scissors, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I like the durability of the packaging. And it had this teriyaki chicken on skewer kind of pictogram on there, this red bag. It was pretty different compared to chips in the United States that Lay's offers. So I was impressed. I was impressed just with the packaging. But we're going to get to these 5 categories now. Now, points for these categories are on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being gross, 5 being great. Category number 1 is the smell. This is a tough one because the smell wasn't terrible. It wasn't fantastic either. It kind of was neutral, to be honest with you. It had a little bit of a chicken-like scent. I didn't necessarily have a teriyaki component to the smell of it. But it did smell a little bit like chicken and a little bit like potato chips. It was faint, but it wasn't anything that was mouth-watering per se. So we're going to give the smell a 3, which is rated so-so. Okay? Category number 2, the initial taste. Again, we're going from 1 to 5, 1 being gross, 5 being great. The initial taste, I was not impressed. Okay? When I got it out of the bag, without having any preconceived notion of how this may be, I bit into it, and though the texture was there, the taste overall, initially, was less to be desired. Now, I didn't spit it out, and like anything that you're trying for the first time, you want to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I was doing that. Thankfully, it wasn't something that I wasn't willing to return to and continue to give it a shot. So for the initial taste, it definitely could have been better. It seemed a little bland, but could have been worse, believe it or not. So taste is going to get a 2, which is not good. Category number 3, the ease of consumption. You might be going, geez, Rob, I mean, we're talking about food here, right? This isn't like some major thing. No, ease of consumption. Now, the reason why we have this category is that not everything goes down and is introduced to your gastrointestinal system as easily and as enjoyably as you would hope or that it should be, despite the fact that we have certain agencies in this country that are supposed to look out for everybody's health, but yeah, we won't get into that right now, will we? So ease of consumption really goes to your ability to consume and not have it necessarily bring about a discomfort or a general dislike for how it makes you feel. And as far as the ease of consumption with this Lay's Tokyo Chicken Teriyaki Potato Chips, I found it to be just as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, than a normal chip. My reason for that is the chip itself was ridged and it was very crunchy. Very, very nicely crunchy, but as soon as you bit into it and you started chewing it, it was super easy as well. It wasn't so crunchy that you couldn't break it down. I was super impressed with how it felt, not just being chewed, but being digested. Definitely a number 5, great. Category number 4, If you remember, our second category was initial taste. Category number 4 is eventual taste. As I kept going on, how did it taste? And the reason that we have this is not everything maintains that same type of flavor hit from when you first had it, which is why, unless it's absolutely disgusting, I would encourage that you, as I did, keep giving it a shot, right? So I stuck with it. And as it kept having more of these chips, I was really impressed. The chicken really kind of poked its flavor out more than the initial couple of chips. And that teriyaki flavor that really didn't seem present at first kind of was there after a while. So I was pretty impressed with that. And it kept making me want to go back for more. So the eventual taste was certainly notably better than the initial taste. It wasn't as bland. It was more flavorful. And it was true to the teriyaki chicken claim that the flavor should be. So this is a little bit tough one, but I think eventually I was really wanting more and more. So I'm going to give that a 5. A great. The eventual taste was great. And category number 5, the last one, desirability. Would you want to have this again? Between the flavor, the ease of consumption, the smell, what's your desirability here? Now, again, smell was okay, but the initial taste, that was the worst so far. Was that enough to make it less desirable for me? No, because it felt good going down. The eventual taste kind of regulated itself into what it claimed it would be. And like I said, the smell, it wasn't neither here nor there. So would I want these again? Yeah, I absolutely would want these again. Which is the reason why I'm going to give it a 4 for good. So we have all of our scores in. Smell was rated a 3. Initial taste was rated a 2. Both ease of consumption and eventual taste were rated a 5. And desirability was rated a 4. After adding all of those up, that comes out to 19. And on our scale, from 1 being the lowest that you could get to 25 being the absolute greatest that you could rank something, it's a solid 19. Rated good. Absolutely give it a shot if you happen to have a Miniso store near you, or if you go online and are able to locate these Lay's Tokyo Chicken Teriyaki Potato Chips imported from Taiwan. That's your flavor to savor on Complex Context. For those of you who are interested in general business news and technology and internet information, I know I'm always checking out broadband stuff. T-Mobile, their home internet. I have it. I enjoy it greatly. And for some people that have it, they were up in arms over some recent news that T-Mobile released about their 5G home internet. Specifically, some people take their gateway and they travel with it. Say if you have an RV, or I don't know, maybe you make much more money than I do, and you try and bring your gateway between your primary residence and a vacation house. I mean, if you have the money for a second house, I think that's being even, for me, cheaper than cheap. But what do I know? For those who don't know how this works, T-Mobile's home internet works off of 5G connectivity. So it's basically taking your reception from your local cell towers and converting the 5G signal into internet connectivity and establishing a Wi-Fi network. It's pretty cool. And I'm a fan of T-Mobile. I'm definitely a loyal customer, and I have more options and bells and whistles than I'm going to tell you about today. But that's more for another time. So the T-Mobile home internet gateways have had GPS capabilities built in because this service is designed to work for your and within your home. It's important in terms of the location of how it's operating. Recently, T-Mobile, much to the chagrin of some of the customers who utilize this service, announced an initiative to make sure that this service, really designed and intended for home use, remains as such and is not taken advantage of by having a customer transport their gateway to turn 5G signal from cell towers and other areas further away from their home from happening. So how are they going to do that? Well, simply put, the GPS, which was built in, has kind of just laid there inactive. It hasn't really been a factor which T-Mobile has taken the advantage of utilizing and verifying that kind of information once active. So now GPS is going to be an active feature on these home gateways. And I read some pretty crazy feedback from people that were saying, hey, it's my service. I'm paying for it. I should be able to bring it wherever I want. It shouldn't matter. And to that end, I guess I kind of get it, but I kind of don't, for the fact of wherever you're considering home, home is technically one location. And I get it if you have, say, a mini house, or maybe you're RVing it up and that's how you live. Yes, it's going to be difficult and it doesn't seem fair. You have a point, but the majority of people aren't relating to those scenarios. So there's some people that just are complaining because that's what people seem to love to do. And it's easy to complain about it, okay? Let's take a step back and take a look at the positive here. To be able to have such a company offer a service that is taking 5G signal and turning it into Wi-Fi and being able to have a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz network, that is unbelievably cool. And competitively, it provides great pricing options for the consumer. Because I don't know about you where you live, but prior to this, the monopoly of any kind of broadband service was just glaringly obvious. It's, like most things, largely ignored, and people say, no, there's choice out there. But there really wasn't. So with T-Mobile Home Internet, I found this to be extremely competitive and extremely reliable for me. Now, of course, results will vary. But to be able to say that you have a problem and you don't like the concept of not being able to take your gateway somewhere else and use that internet service, to that I would say, if you had any other broadband company that offers an internet service, would they have the same leeway? Would they offer that? Would they say you could take it anywhere? We don't care. Just give us your address of where you're going to use it. But if you have a device that you're going to take elsewhere and can somehow have that capability transported, we don't mind that. Come on, man. You got to be kidding me. This is not really a surprise totally, because most consumers who are into this kind of information knew that GPS capabilities were built in and that they weren't being utilized. So the fact that T-Mobile wants to do that now, this isn't really a grand happening. It's just enforcing rules that were not enforced. And it's unbelievable to see some people really get up in arms about it. So T-Mobile has developed alternately a plan where you can have this kind of traveling internet service, which I think is great for the consumer. I think this is largely a non-issue for any consumers that have a problem with it, because the service in itself is really, really nice to have. It really is, and it's not bad at all. Now, of course, you're going to have your folks that complain about speed throttling depending on network traffic. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, guys, this is just how it is. It's not exclusive to one company. Most broadband companies have such factors and restrictions in place. So this isn't anything new. And in terms of the mobile capabilities of having a network connection, to me, unless you're out in a remote area, just turn your cell phone into a hotspot and work off of that. I really don't think that's a big deal. But maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. Whenever I'm out and about, I'm not saying to myself, oh my gosh, if one thing I could have with me, it would be my Wi-Fi. No, I mean, you're either going to get on a network, a guest network that can accommodate you, or you're just going to use your own cell phone network. It's not that big of a deal. For people that find fault with this and want to point the finger and go, that's a very uncarrier thing to do, as if they're so witty of using that phrasing, that marketing against them. One concept that I'm going to introduce here and is going to kind of be a running theme for any time that we talk about business or certain services or products that are offered is, the first thing is, what is a good business? Now, the next thing, once we have the good business, is, do they offer a good product? So we have a relatively good business, right? And I say relatively good in terms of, I think it's good. I'm not going to get into the factors why I believe that. We can, and you're more than welcome to poke out at me on social media and email about it. So we have a good company. They have good products. Again, they're all over the place. Your phone plans, your internet plans, your discounts on streaming services, and your T-Life perks that go out every Tuesday. They have a plethora of things, okay? The third thing that you need is you need good consumers. Now, there's some people going, man, what does this guy work for the company? No, I am strictly a consumer. And this isn't going to be specific and exclusive just to T-Mobile and its products. This is my feeling on pretty much most any business, any product, any service is, you can have a good company and you can have a good product and you can have good people using those, right? But on the total opposite end, you could have a really crappy company and you could have really crappy products. And you can have really crappy, angry consumers, right? So you can have any combination of this. And a lot of times what we end up falling into is you have a relatively good company with a, let's say, standard to above average product or service line, but you have really crappy consumers that are using it. And by that I mean, we have a responsibility as well to really look at what is in front of us, what is being offered, what are we paying, what is our satisfaction of how we're deciding to use our money and use our time and efforts towards consumption of this, right? But we could be complete jerks. We could be a pain in the ass. And no matter how good we may have it, no matter how run-of-the-mill the product and the company may be, as far as status quo / no significant innovation for a certain amount of time, hey, that happens. But for what you need and what is being offered and what you're paying, is it worth it? And for this, the home internet pricing, which you can find out yourself through T-Mobile, I don't want to become their unofficial advocate here unless they want me to. So go check that out if you're interested. But their pricing is extremely competitive. If you happen to be in an area that has the availability to have this and it has pretty decent coverage, yeah, follow up with that. Take the service for a spin. See if you like it. See if it'll do something for you. And maybe it will. Maybe it won't. That's okay. But when you have a product or a service from your company and as a consumer, you don't agree with it, and maybe I should say you don't agree with the terms behind how you can use it, then it's your right to say, yeah, that doesn't work for me, bro. I'm going the other way. And that's okay. The companies in general can take that feedback and look at it as a whole. But more often than not, you can't be the crappy consumer that wants to wave the flag of injustice over something silly, like a company wanting to enforce their technology's capabilities and the service expectations behind it. So for those that have T-Mobile home internet, if you're not happy about the fact that they're cracking down and they're not going to allow your gateway to travel outside of your verified address, why are you angry about that? Please let me know. Reach out to me, complexcontextshow@yahoo.com on email, @complexcontext1 on Twitter /X. Sorry, Rob Victim, I know you won't ever call it X. He said it. I agree with it. I totally get it. I'd prefer to call it Twitter as well. And facebook.com /complexcontext1. Again, check us out on Podbean, our official hosting site and distribution partner. We are on, I think, 11 different services. Isn't that crazy? So pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, you can go back there every time we release an episode. It's awesome. Go to complexcontext.podbean.com. So, yeah, T-Mobile home internet. Hey, I'm going to stick with it. To me, when you label something as home internet service, my first thought isn't going to be, oh my goodness, where can I take this? Come on, let's be real. Hey, I want to give a shout out to a really awesome podcast. And I know one of the hosts personally. Now, I don't know the co-host here, but that doesn't stop me from wanting to promote and make sure that I get this information out to you. There are two females that have their podcasts talk about all kinds of things that are way beyond, in my opinion, even just female relatability. I think it's important for guys to take a listen and hear the perspective. Crystal and Vienna present the Healing Happy Hour pod. They have such good banter back and forth about a variety of topics. It could be anything from personal development, emotional stability through some trying times. There could be a lot of Taylor Swift talk. They kind of cover a little bit of everything, and they are really just two awesome people to have that kind of a show. I would recommend you check it out. Search for the Healing Happy Hour pod where you get your podcasts. And if in doubt, you're always welcome to go to their Instagram page at Healing Happy Hour Pod, P-O-D. No, big shout out to Crystal and Vienna. I'm a very big fan. I've been listening, I think, since the beginning. And they have a lot of good episodes in the archive, so if you haven't checked them out, I would highly recommend that. Crystal, Vienna, keep on doing what you're doing with the Healing Happy Hour pod. And hopefully we'll be able to link up soon. It would be cool to have a chat with you right here on Complex Context. Now, as we are wrapping up for this week, again, I want to remind you, if you have any suggestions or recommendations for topics that you would like to have addressed or banter back and forth long form, please don't hesitate. Get that over. You can send all of your feedback, comment, suggestions to complexcontextshow@yahoo.com, @complexcontext1 on Twitter, and facebook.com/complexcontext. Don't forget our official webpage where all of the social media information, as well as all of our individual episodes and a listing of all of the platforms where you can download and stream this podcast, always available, complexcontext.podbean.com. Also want to give a shout out to Crystal. I want to thank you for giving me a like on my personal Instagram a few days ago. I appreciate the love. I hope you and Joe and all the kids are doing well. Shout out also going out to Johnny Makes Beats. You can find him at JONNIE Makes Beats on Instagram. He does the intro music where our announcer comes in and out and what you're going to hear queued up shortly. He's such a good beat maker, and I really appreciate his company and his time. He's so talented. If you happen to be an artist, especially, and I'm not saying exclusively, but especially if you have that hip-hop or R&B kind of vibe, Johnny can hook you up and work with you. Definitely, he's committed to his craft. We're both kind of audiophiles, and that's why I have such a good relatability to him. Plus, we both love the tacos and the burritos and all that, and you can never go wrong. I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to stick with me for this episode. Like I said, we are moving and grooving and growing week by week, day by day. I would love to hear from you. What would you like to talk about? What would you like me to talk about? You have any questions, comments, reach out, email, social media. We got all that information. I'm Rob Impact. Take care of each other. Look after each other. Enjoy this wonderful life we are blessed with. We only have one, so we need to make the most of it. Do what you do it often, do it well. Just don't do anything I wouldn't do, and you'll be doing all right. I'll talk to you.
Visit the show's website at complexcontext.podbean.com. Complex Context is a Mass Ed Media production.